Hello and welcome to the Ray Show podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Ray, and I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Jack Slayton.
Hello.
Good morning. How are you doing on this 93-degree September day?
Not bad. You?
Just doing great. Well, we've got a fantastic episode for you. We got Mr. Jarvis Leatherby from the mighty Night Demon here on the podcast to talk about all the exciting shit that's going on in Night Demon world. But I think everybody's going to really dig this chat. Jarvis, super cool guy, and you know, I would say a real a champion for metal, you know, and a warrior for metal, like real metal in a way, and you know, a real positive spark within this scene. So we'll be getting to that here in just a little bit. But we want to wish everyone good health and safety out there going through this, this being this pandemic that's still gripping the nation. You know, it's you see a lot of frustration now in every walk of life, and especially with artists now. And it's heartbreaking and devastating to see. So make sure you encourage any artist friends you have in bands, writers, actors, anybody doing something that provides the soul of this world. You know, make sure you encourage them and help out in any way you can. On upcoming Ratio podcast episodes, we'll have more information on how you can help these artists, and we'll be putting links up on the social media sites. But speaking of local awesomeness, we have I want to make sure we always keep promoting the two new records from our friends in Vinkus and Shehihi. Vinkus has released Phantasma this year, and Shehihi has just recently released Pet Songs. So, I mean, both are fantastic records. Wouldn't you agree, Jack?
Absolutely. Really exciting releases.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely worth a listen.
And, you know, both are local Athens artists, Georgia artists, as I mentioned. Bands in our local scene, so make sure you support them and the arts right now in general. But getting back to our talk tonight, Jarvis just is metal, and they've been releasing a series of singles this year, starting with Empire's Fall and then leading all the way up to this badass Scorpions cover they've done. But I met Jarvis at the Decibel pre-party for the Decibel Metal and Beer Fest LA. At the Troubadour, where they played with Armored Saint and others, and they just did that cover of Entrance, and it just blew the doors off the fucking club, man. Everybody was talking about it.
No, you played it for me on. You showed me the footage of it, and yeah, I mean it's a classic heavy metal song, and they did perfect justice to it. Absolutely.
Well, enough of my yakking. Let's get to my talk with Jarvis Leatherby. All right. We are fortunate enough to have Jarvis Leatherby from the mighty Night Demon on the Ratio podcast tonight. How are you doing, Jarvis?
Doing great. The sun is warm here in Southern California. I can't complain, you know, with all the given the situation that everybody in the world's dealing with, you know, we're making the best of it here, and you know, we're carrying on.
Right. And you know, how is it out there in your neck of the woods? Like, I know at one point it was a hot spot for the virus, and how are you staying sane out there?
Barely. No, it's weird not being able to travel after we've been, you know, like Night Demon's been on the road since 2014, basically. So it's interesting, like getting domesticated again. But we've done pretty well. the guys in the band, we're around each other all the time anyway, so we haven't had to distance ourselves from each other. So we've had all this time to woodshed and record and write, and we get together daily. And we've had 5 singles come out this year starting in April. Every 5 weeks we put out a 7-inch single, and that was planned 18 months prior. We had no idea this pandemic was going to happen, and it took us off the road immediately. But it's been, the good side of it is these singles were still ready to go, and the production was done, and there was no delays on that stuff. And we had our fans' attention because everybody was sitting at home, so they had a chance to get into the music. And so we've been giving them a steady dose since April. And there's always a bright side to look at things, and we're definitely a glass half full kind of organization here. So personally, this has been the best year of my life. So
Wow.
Yeah,
that's good to hear. That's so fucking good to hear. Just someone saying that.
Well, dude, I was in the hospital earlier this year too. Like, I had a lung infection, and
Oh shit.
I almost died. So, I mean, it's honestly been the best year of my life, though. It's good. It's good to have clarity sometimes. And it's, I had a forced vacation basically, and I've used the time wisely. I haven't been sitting around. I haven't been afraid of what's going to come and what's going to happen. Just been kind of making our own fortune here. And just knowing that when this is over, we're firing on all cylinders already. So there's no pieces for us to pick up, right. And I don't even want to say we're going to leave off where we left off. We're going to hit the road again in a much better position.
Well, let me start by first saying, I'm very sorry to hear about your illness. It's good to hear you've recovered. But that leads me into my question about these singles, and you've pretty much answered it, that this was planned. And I didn't know with the rapid rate you guys were releasing these, the quality was there. And I didn't know if you were eventually going to put out a full length with all these on them. But these songs have been so much fun. And I guess the Empire's Fall, that was the first one you guys released, right?
Right.
So how did this plan of releasing these singles and these 7 inches, how did this, trip you guys fancy?
Well, we were writing songs that were very unique to themselves, I guess. They were standing on their own, and it wasn't like a real cohesive kind of album feel. And so we thought, man, it'd be great to have these songs out on their own with their own cover art, that they say their own thing, and it's not going to be some schizophrenic album where you got this totally heavy, thrashy kind of song, and then you got like a Thin Lizzy kind of song, and then, it's like, so to us, it made sense that way. And it's cool as an artist to be able to just switch gears right away and go, hey, we have some diversity, and we don't want to keep repeating ourselves anyway. So it was cool to do that. And there's another thing to it too. I think it's just the attention spans these days are so short. And, for a band like Night Demon, it's like we tour so much and we put out an album every few years. So it's like, we put out a new album tomorrow, by next week it's already old news these days.
Yeah.
So it's like, if we have a collection of songs that we think they're each strong enough to stand on their own, we want to be able to give those songs a chance on their own and do it that way. So it's turned out to be a good judgment call on our part. The record company was a little bit against it to begin with, but they rolled the dice with us, and they're happy. The vinyl sells out within an hour or two of going on sale each time it happens. So like, I think they're happy with those results. Obviously the sales, from the business end, I mean, that's obviously important to them. But the thing is too, it's like we've done it with zero announcement. Like every single, like we just drop it the day that it comes out, and the press release goes out. There's no pre-order. There's no, hey guys, next week coming soon. Or, I just feel these days, it's like nobody knows if they're even going to have a record player in 3 months, it's like,
right.
So, and, I've just been a big proponent of, again, it's like some of this stuff, it's like you hear the news and it's old news by the time it comes out. It's like, oh, I forgot that was even happening. it's almost like buying concert tickets for a concert that's going to happen in a year. It's like, well, I kind of felt like I've already gone to it, you know, like,
Right.
so we're just trying to bring back it's, you know, a lot of people, we don't like to just talk about things we're going to do. We just kind of just do them with our actions, you know, and just say, look, here it is. And you can have this now in your hands now, on your turntable now. You don't have to wait, you know.
Right.
So not to say that we won't do any kind of pre-order system in the future, you know, for a full-length album. That's kind of necessary. I would just like to make that the pre-order term much shorter, you know, maybe half of the, not 3 months, maybe 6 weeks instead of 3 months, you know, like, so, but you know, it's a constant battle between your art and the business end. And, you know, I'm heavily involved in the business side, so I do understand how those business strategies work. But in today's day and age, it's fair game. It's like you have nothing to lose by trying something, because if you just do everything the way everybody else is doing them, you end up in a pandemic with nothing, you know.
Right.
So you just got to trust your gut always and do things for the right reason. And if you feel that it's the right reason, it's because it is. And if you feel it's wrong, it's because it is too. Just like being in a bad relationship or anything, you know, anytime you try and force it and you're going against what your core values are, you're always going to have to end up compromising in a way that, you know, it's not your best foot forward. And, you know, I think we have enough experience in this business to know what the things are that we want and to be able to go after them. And I think more bands need to dig deep and decide about the things that they really do want, and not just kind of let things happen to them, because then you end up in a situation where you're just fucked and you're complaining all the time, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
You know, hey, people stealing my music, this and that. It's like, well, hey, look, this is the way the world works. How do we do this? How do we play that game where we can all win, you know,
Right.
instead of just like, oh, well, this, you know, rock is dead. Fucking, you know, dude, ska isn't even dead. Like rock is definitely not dead, you know. It's dead for the people, for the quitters, you know. So
Absolutely. And I'm so fucking tired of hearing Gene Simmons and whoever else just if they need some press that week, trot out that old line, man. Rock will never die.
yeah,
Um,
it's like, yeah, the more underground it goes, the better it gets. The better the music gets, you know. Yeah, I think what he's trying to say is corporate rock is dead, and getting paid way more than you're worth is over with. Good.
right. Right.
And I'm a huge Kiss fan,
I
like
am too. I am
huge,
too.
huge, huge. So, like, they're my top 10 favorite bands of all time, any genre, easily. And I still go see them, you
I
know.
do
So,
too. I do too.
yeah. So, you
There's
know,
part of
I'm not.
me that'll always be like 10 years old, man, 11 years old hearing them, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
Um, but you know, one thing I want to bring up, and the way you're releasing these has been really exciting, and you know, it is cool to look at midnight on like a Friday night and see there's a new Night Demons, you know, single. But I remember that night in at the Troubadour, the Decibel pre-party. That was a hell of a bill. It was like you guys, Armored Saint. It was just badass.
Yeah.
But you guys played that Entrance cover, and I was like, I remember, I think telling you later, I was like, fuck, I hope you guys release that. First of all, what a badass choice of cover, and I'm sure you're a longtime Scorpions fan. Um, how cool was that to try and tackle that song, because you pull that vocal off, you don't try and sing it like Klaus, which would be almost like trying to sing like Freddie Mercury. You know,
Right.
how did you approach that song?
It's one of those songs that, um, you know, you don't think you're going to be able to do vocally. So, like, we never had aspirations to really do it because I didn't think I'd be able to pull it off. But once I started singing, I was like, oh wow, this is kind of, I do have this register. So
Right.
we played it in Germany at the Bang Your Head Festival as kind of like a thing. You know, we have a large German following, but we kind of wanted to bring like a national song to them. You know, we wanted to to play a song in front of 18,000 Germans, that was like a song that they could identify with, especially, and so that went like really well.
Oh God, I can imagine. It about tore the
Yeah,
roof off the Troubadour that night,
yeah,
man.
yeah, and no, it was great, man. And from there we kind of had it in our set a little bit, and then fast forward to the Hell Over Hammerberg Fest in Hamburg, Germany. We were able we headline. It was our first headlining festival in Europe, so it was kind of a big deal for us, and it was sold out. And that's when we called upon Uli John Roth, and we flew him out, and he played in trance and top of the bill with us as an encore. Nobody knew he was going to be there, and that's what you hear on the 7-inch. It's us with Uli John Roth playing classic Scorpions. It's like,
Damn.
I just can't believe that actually did happen, and so we had to commit that to wax. It's
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
yeah. So just one of those dream moments. But if you don't ask, you don't get. And one thing I'd like to mention, I'd like to plug something a little bit here. Night Demon has a podcast now that we started. It's called the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. It's available on all platforms and at our website at nightdemon.net. But we have a special In Trance episode on there. It's a 90-minute podcast episode where it talks about how Uli came and played with us and everything surrounding it. It's really interesting. Our podcast it's a very journalistic approach. It's hosted and curated by somebody else. It's not like the band hanging out every Friday drinking,
Right.
So it's actually educational, and like it's nice to see how interesting of a band we are. Like I never realized it, so there's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of good stories behind what we're doing, and that it just makes me proud to have something out there like that. So
fuck yeah,
so
that sounds awesome, man.
Yeah, Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. That's where we're at these days, and it's a weekly show. It happens every Friday, no matter what. And I'm sure it's like, man, when you're producing a weekly show, it's like being on a television show. It's like,
shit,
hey, man,
yeah.
I gotta produce results this week. People are expecting it, and the consistency factor of it is huge. So it's interesting though. It's good to put pressure on yourself and put yourself in a situation where you have to create. It's really cool, and that's something I never did with music. I kind of was like, hey, let's let it come to us. Like, let's work on it, but like, let's not force it. With the podcast medium, it's like, hey, man, we got to produce content.
Absolutely.
So let's make it good.
yeah, and it's it stays up there forever. I remember
Absolutely.
people were these podcasts will be gone in a month, and they're only gaining now. That's so fucking cool to hear that you guys are doing one.
Yeah.
Now, I'm so glad you guys played Top of the Bill. That's another one of my favorite songs off that record. Now, what was Uli like? I mean, just briefly, what was he like to play with?
I mean, he was great to play with. He didn't want to rehearse, and we were like, man, please, like, we need to rehearse this. And he's like, no, it's cool. So we're like, okay. He showed up an hour before our set, came backstage. We ran through it just kind of acoustically. And then he came on like a fucking hippie ghost, he came on the encore, and nobody was expecting it. Nobody even knew he was in the place, so like, it was a real special moment. We've got video of it online and stuff, but yeah, I mean, he was a great guy. We actually remained friends after, and then he came to California a couple months later, and we hung out with him. And so it was great, man. It was just like, he's a real interesting guy,
Yeah, he's always been so mysterious, kind of seeming,
He's super nice. He's just, he lives in outer space, man. Like, he brought his guitar out backstage before the show, and like, there's like feathers and dream catchers hanging from it and shit, and jewels. It's all bedazzled and shit. But then he starts playing the thing, and it's like, God, man, he's like channeling God or something, So.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, he's one of my favorites, and like, it's so cool that you guys got to play with him. And it's so random to see, like, I've seen you guys, and then like he went on stage with the Smashing Pumpkins like 10 years ago.
Well, he did something that Billy Corgan kind of set up with him, I think, through Guitar World. And, I mean, Uli could probably give a shit about who the Smashing Pumpkins were. And like, same with us, he had no prior knowledge to Night Demon, but he was watching us play while we were on stage, and he was digging it. So like,
fuck yeah.
It was cool, man. Yeah, it was cool.
Well, your vocals are such a hook, and it's good that you're before we get off the single thing, I got to tell you, you turned me on to. I thought I'd heard every new wave of British heavy metal band until I heard Le Griff.
Oh man, how
Um,
good how good are the two EPs that that band has, right?
Jesus Christ, they've been on repeat. I've just been walking around the house like a long dry road, and
Dude,
like
seriously, right?
it's just like those harmonies are just like lethal. I mean those melodies. How did you guys find that fucking band?
We have a friend in Houston, Texas named Rob McNeese, and he's an old school guy, and he's a big time record collector. And in our touring van, we used to just have a tape player and a cassette player. And so we just try and get cassettes all the time. And so what he did was he started making us these mixtapes, and he had those two EPs on side A, and we were like, Fast Bikes was the first song, and we were like immediately like we were like, what is this and why don't we know this,
It's like you want to pull over and just call everyone that's a fan of this
Yeah.
and be like, you have
So
to
what we
stop
did,
everything.
we just recorded it as a B-side, and now people know, so that's our best way to expose a band is to just play their song. I
Yeah.
mean, that's Night Demon loves doing covers, and we're not ashamed of that.
Um, well, you pick the cool ones, and like you said, you really are turning, a whole new generation on to, just this exuberance of these, just the finding a song like that, finding an EP like that just thrilled me, It was like
Yeah,
a
good, man.
secret I didn't know about, and I fucking keep my nose to the
I mean, isn't
grindstone.
it cool? Isn't it cool, like, to be into music for decades and then discover stuff that you never know was there, and it's good. It's like, that's the thing. Like, I don't complain about technology and the internet. I just use it. Like, I love it. Like, we still have the classic traditions. I mean, look, we're putting out 7-inch singles, man.
Yeah.
Like, we've gotten a lot of criticism for putting out singles because the guy from Spotify recently came out and said, here's the new business model with singles. We were already doing it, and a lot of people in the metal community are like, hey man, you guys are flying the flag higher than anybody, so don't set the precedence that singles are the new way. The full length album is still very much alive, and I just say, just let us do whatever the fuck we're doing. Like, we're not we're bringing back the 7-inch. It's like that was around before the LP. It's like people don't
Absolutely.
realize that. It's like we're still doing the physical medium. Just because the songs are available digitally, that's fine too. You can listen to it however you want to, but
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
still, that's not a new thing for us. I mean, we're not going to be a band that's just going to do singles forever. I mean, we've got some full lengths planned, but you got to shake it up every now and again. Right. And like I said, the timing was perfect. So
Yeah, this is the year to shake it up, definitely.
yeah, no
Um,
shit.
well, we talked a little bit before. You guys are from Ventura.
Yeah.
And I mentioned how when I come to LA, I'm usually just there for business, so I'm very limited in what I know. But when you were growing up, how accessible was LA? Were you going? How much was that an influence on this
All the time.
metal journey you started?
Yeah, all the time. Like, my childhood was spent at the Roxy and the Whiskey A Go Go and the Troubadour and
Did you sneak in
Kazari's,
the
you
Rainbow?
know, the Rainbow. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Rainbow. Yeah, I still go to the Rainbow, but I still go to all those clubs. But Guitar Center was out there. It was before they were a big corporate machine. So if you wanted to go buy that nice guitar, you had to go down to Hollywood. And that was, it was never the land of broken dreams for us. It was like the bar. It was
Fuck
like
yeah.
we had to get there and be a part of that, and we were. And when Night Demon started, really what broke us was playing in the LA metal scene. Nothing happened in Ventura. We have a local following of friends, but it was going out to LA where when we played our first show out there, it was when I realized, hey, we got something here. Something's cooking.
Yeah.
So I mean, and me just being in the business and managing so many bands,
Right.
being in LA is like, it's key, man. I mean, yeah, I go to shows. Well, pre-pandemic, I'm going to shows 3, 4, 5 nights a week, and it's like, everybody from all the labels are there, the agents are there, people from the scene, guys in other bands, and And that you got to be part of a scene. And if you're in a smaller town where there's no scene, you must create it.
Yes.
And we've got a lot of pockets in the United States, smaller towns, that have great heavy metal scenes because they have great local bands and great promoters. Like, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be major market. In LA you can go to 10 metal shows a week.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In Tulsa, Oklahoma, you can go to one, maybe two a month, but they count. So that there's something to be said for the less is more when there's quality over quantity. And all you need is a good band in town. And trust me, you will turn anybody into a metalhead. Like, I've seen it. I've seen the pop punk emo kid become a metalhead because he's got a great band in his town.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Yeah,
Yeah. So
absolutely.
so if you're a metalhead and you live in a town and you think you have zero metal scene, start a band and you will watch it grow.
Yeah, yeah. And you guys really, it makes so much sense you growing up in that scene, I went there when I first started coming to LA for work. I was in my early 20s, and just being able to go into the Rainbow and, like, share a hit off a joint with a legend. I mean, it meant so much, and just seeing these gods to me up front. And now I'm at my four. I still make it to the Rainbow every time I go out.
Yeah.
Every time I'm in
And
LA.
yeah, and for me, it's like, I can tell you right now that I've seen Motorhead in concert a lot, but I've seen Lemmy way more than I've seen Motorhead.
Yeah.
Way more.
Oh yeah. And I talked to him in there, God, years ago, and he was such a nice guy. He was so cool.
Yeah.
He listened to my shit and had a drink with me. Um, but what were some of the more legendary bills you remember seeing back then that really made you say, "Hey, man, I want to get up on stage and do this"?
Well, like, when I was in high school, I was perpetually grounded because I was, but I would sneak out a lot. And in the years when, like, metal was pretty dead in the 90s, I remember seeing, like, the original Dokken lineup in front of maybe 100 people.
Wow.
Um, and it was a very uninspiring performance, I'll say that. I mean, it was great for me as a young musician, but looking back on it, they could feel what was happening. I used to go see Testament a lot. They were like a great band. Like, when you're young and you want to fuck shit up, like, they were one of the better bands, I think, from out here.
Oh yeah.
And they kept it going. Like, they never really stopped doing it. So, like, they were always playing at a high level. Um, I never got into death metal too much, but I would go to a lot of death metal shows. A lot of the Florida bands would always tour California. And I was promoting shows in Ventura. So, like, I brought Cannibal Corpse and Death, 6 Feet Under. I did a lot of that stuff out here, as well as King Diamond, Merciful
Shit,
Fate on
yeah.
their UFO's reunion, with the Strangers in the Night lineup.
Wow.
I was a small part of that. At a young age, I had got this. My grandparents, when I was born, they put like $3,000 into, like, this home savings account for my college fund. And by the time I turned 18, I dropped out of high school to work in the concert business. And I took all that money, and instead of going, like, by that time it had really accrued. And so, by that time I took all that money and started bringing bands over from Europe. I brought Dark Funeral over for their first tour. This band called The Gathering.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was a part of that when I was like 17. I just went headfirst into it, and I started to learn a lot about touring in the concert business. And I had my own band and my own aspirations. And so I kind of just made friends and kind of took those experiences to, carried them forth. And then, a lot has happened through the years, but when I was 30 years old, I said, okay, I get a real job now, or I start the real band. And that's when I decided to start Night Demon. So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting life, man. But that's if you stop or you quit, then you have zero chance. So My thing is just, I'm enjoying the journey, and it's just part of who I am. You know, I wouldn't recommend the rock business for anybody who wants to be a millionaire. Not to say that can't happen. It can. But it's got to be part of who you are, you know, and that's
Right.
kind of the thing. It's the only thing I feel comfortable doing. I've tried to do other things. I've had other careers. I did go back to high school and finish, and I did go to college, and I was into real estate. I've done everything, but all those things were, they were soul sucking, you know, and rock was like a hobby. And I just said, you know, when people ask what you do, you got to be honest with them, you know, and I always wanted to say that I was the fucking rock god.
Fuck
And
yeah.
so, and while I was pushing real estate, I, 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 I had to say what I was, and I wasn't comfortable with that. So I had to shift gears. And, you know, the band was homeless for 3 or 4 years, and it sucked, but it was worth it, you know? So
Yeah.
the only way out is through. You can't go around it, you know? And like we have so many, we have so much comfort in our lives these days. And once you get comfort, you just want more and more and more of it, but there's like zero growth there, you know? So we had to get comfortable being uncomfortable to realize the dream.
Yeah. Um, and that's so inspiring to hear. Just you talk about that journey. I mean, that's similar to mine in a way, but it's in your blood, man. It's like I like every aspect of it. I like the late nights. I like, you know, talking to somebody about Accept for 2 fucking hours after all the work's done. You know.
Yeah.
And you know, LA's a definite good place for that. And how does that, you know, I've promoted shows too, and it can be just a fucking stress nightmare. How does that feed into what you do artistically with Night Demon? How does that fuel that?
What do you mean specifically?
Like being involved in that side of the business as well.
Well, I mean, look, it's like the only reason why, because, you know, we have a festival called Frost and Fire. We have one here in Ventura, one in London, and you know, we're expanding. But the thing is like, once you're on that side of it, you know how things work, and then you go and start playing other people's festivals, and you're like, oh hell no.
Yeah.
You're like, you know, you're like, I know how to do, and or you play other people's festivals, and you're like, this is great, and you're like, you kind of take a little bit from each one, and then you can craft your own thing. It's extremely stressful. For the festivals that we do, we put a lot of money on the line up front that we don't know if we're ever going to get back. Thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. But, you know, you can always stand at your event while it's happening and look around, and you know how hard you worked, whether that's, you know, a little bit, a lot, or whatever. You know, it's always comes back on you. And the thing about concert promoters is there's some great ones out there, but there's a lot of jokers out there, and they think that they see other people do things that they could just pick up and do it. And, you know, I've got decades of experience, and I've had many failures. Trust me, I've put on big events that never even happened. I've lost my ass many times. But again, the ultimate failure is giving up. So like, we take our licks, we learn from them, we move on. And, you know, I mean, that's pretty much all there is to it. You have to put yourself in a position. I mean, the way I see it, if I'm not waking up in the middle of the night at least 3 nights a week going, holy fuck, what am I doing? Then I'm not living.
Right.
You know? I mean, really, I swear. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night in just a cold sweat going, dude, how are you going to pull this off? You know?
Oh yeah.
And that's when I just get on the computer right then and don't go back to bed and go, this is how I'm going to pull it off. You know? Like,
yeah.
so, but you got to push yourself sometimes. You got to, you know, there's no limitations in this life. And it's like every time I see a douchebag driving a better car than me, I'm like, okay, I'm better than that guy. But at one point, he just kind of believed in himself, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like we can get to those levels. We can reach those heights if there's integrity behind it. You know, if you're not doing it for the money, you can make money by putting that much more passion into it, you know? So
Yeah, and doing what you guys are doing, thinking outside of the like normal traditional way. You release a record, really kind of jumping off the cliff and doing it, like you said.
I think that's the only way. You got to take that leap of faith without a net, and just you got to bank on yourself. That's the thing. And being homeless and hungry, that's what gets you to that point, because you're like, dude, if I don't play my ass off tonight, I might not eat. And there were nights where we didn't eat on the road, and it sucked,
Yeah.
like when you're physically hurting and you're hungry, like it's not, you start to think about things, so like, I wanted to know that next meal was going to be there, and that had everything to do with like what kind of performance I was going to put on that night too. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so it's cool to put yourself in a position sometimes where you have to dig deep, because you do, like, our brains are wired for survival, but survival is like just the bare minimum. Like that just keeps you alive, and
Right.
that's not really living. That's just not dying.
Yeah, you got to have a dream. You got to have something that gets you up every morning, and it's got to be something you love. When people
Right.
talk about getting into this business, I'm like, you better really fucking love this.
Yeah, you gotta love all of it, dude. You gotta love all of it, man.
Right.
Because it's not pretty. It's not. There's like, I always say, like, it's not as glorious as it seems, but it's very rewarding. And that's the kind of thing when you could pat yourself on the back, where you're like, you have no boss, you have nobody else to rely on but yourself. And that's when you find the real security. As this pandemic should teach everybody that there's no security in your good job.
Or,
The only
yeah.
security is in yourself, and you got to develop the skills that are necessary to do whatever trade it is that you want to do, so
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Well, getting back to your trade a little bit, you guys, you got two awesome full lengths. I mean, I can't recommend them more. I always say you guys are like, the best, everything that's good in metal. But you've also got one of the coolest live albums in recent years. And I wanted to ask, how important were live albums to you growing up? And do you feel they connect as much as they once did?
They're more important to me than studio albums.
Right.
Like like Live After Death was the first time I heard Iron Maiden.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And I was like, I couldn't believe that what was happening there. For us, I think, and just being a career musician, the live album is where it's at for me. But for us, releasing a record again, we were criticized because it's like, look, these guys have an EP and two full lengths. At that point, we had only really been releasing music for 4 years, and they're like, why a triple live album now? Like, don't you think you need to go out and prove yourself and have more of a catalog? But for us, it's like, here's the thing I hate most about live albums is that my favorite bands don't have legit live albums from those periods of their career. They're all shitty bootlegs, or like they didn't have the foresight to go, hey, let's fucking really like take the time to make this thing sound good.
Oh, yeah.
It's always later in their career, 5 albums deep, after their inspiration is gone and the ship has sailed, and they've got a bunch of fans there that aren't really fans in the audience. They're just there because they're what's the flavor of the week or whatever. And those albums are great, but like I don't want to wait for that,
Right.
like I want people 10 years from now to look back and go, man, I remember the early days of Night Demon. I was there. And now it's like anybody who wasn't there can feel like they were there, So
Yeah. It's like Kiss, with Kiss Alive, and like you,
Right.
you mentioned Live After Death,
Yeah.
sitting there and looking at the fucking art and the booklet that came with it.
Yeah.
It was such an immersive experience.
Absolutely. Like we recreated those records for us, and for our fans. And so, as much as we follow the blueprint of those bands and stuff, we still we're putting these things out earlier than most bands. And as much as people say, we're the next Maiden or whatever. I mean, we really just want to be the first Night Demon.
Fuck yeah, man. And you know, you guys are well on your way, I think, to making a permanent mark in metal, and are, you know, with any live record, you want to capture the excitement, and I really think your live record does. But speaking of live shows, you guys played the 70,000 Tons of Metal festival. So what's it like playing a metal fest on a cruise ship?
Weird. And you know, I gotta say, for me personally, I was sober on that trip,
Oh wow.
and that was fucking. Yeah, I did the whole New Year's resolution. I'm gonna go sober this year, and like that happened in January, early January, and I was like, I was hurting, dude. But
Oof.
I held strong. I held strong. But it's like, you know, in metal, everybody's partying around you all the time. On a metal cruise, people are dying around you all the time from partying. You know,
Yeah.
like it's just nonstop. But it's interesting. You play 2 shows on the boat over a course of 5 days. Our first gig was on the pool deck, so it was on the top at 5:30 a.m. And we were
Wow.
like, yeah, we're like, what the fuck? What the fuck? But people showed up. It was great. And one of the most magical things happened that morning that's ever happened on stage to me ever before. And, you know, so we're playing and it's dark and all the lights are going and everything. And midway through the set, the day breaks and we played In Trance. And right when I sang that first line, I wake up in the morning and the sun begins to shine. The sun just broke over the horizon.
Oh man.
If you listen to the Night Demon Heavy Metal podcast, episode 2, we talk about that on the In Trance episode. We have there's like our stage crew is on there talking about the accounts of what happened, and there's some fans on there, and they all have the same story. So it was a magical moment, and like, you know, that's just what happens. You know, it's all about your attitude. Like, who wants to play at 5:30 a.m.? Nobody. But we went out and did it, and then something happened that can never be recreated. So but if we had a bad attitude about it, I don't even know if that would have happened, honestly. You know, I just believe there are certain energies in the universe that you can create, and good or bad, you know, the universe does not discriminate. You know?
Right. Yeah, that's a unique experience. I'm a night owl anyway, but that's pretty damn unique.
Yeah.
And you know, you guys have toured with so many heavyweights the genre, like the Mighty Raven, Anvil, and Accept, just to name a few. Are there any stories or experiences that stand out from these tours?
Man, there's so many. I mean, I will say that, you know, much like another well-known band, you know, Raven took us out on our very first tour. So like, and we did like 50 cities. It was intense, man. It was awesome. And we really bonded with those guys. And that was really great. I'm grateful for that opportunity. I will say, I'll just drop one quick story here. On when we toured with Accept, on the last show of the tour, we were in Europe. We were in Finland. And Peter Baltus, the bass player, he used to come into our dressing room every night after their set and pour himself a Jack and Coke, like from our booze, because those guys weren't drinking and maybe he didn't want to be seen drinking around them or whatever. So he would just come in and do that. He never asked us. He would just do it. And it's fine. I guess he doesn't need to, you know, but so the last show of the tour, they always close the set with Balls to the Wall. So I said, hey, I'm going to just pour him a drink tonight and bring it to him so he doesn't have to come in here and get it. So I went back to stage left in the back where I knew the band always exited after the show. And the drummer comes back and he rolls back, and I think the guitar player came back, and Mark, the singer, came back. And I had the Jack and Coke in a cup, and I unzipped my pants and I put my ball sack out. Like, so my balls were just hanging out the zipper of my pants. And I put the drink in front of my balls, so I covered it up. And I said, hey, Peter, I brought you your drink tonight. And he's all, dude, you're awesome. It's been so great touring with you. And he grabbed the drink, and because I kept it low, he grabbed it from me, and my fucking balls were there. And he's like, oh, you know, like, but then Wolf Hoffman comes out, and Wolf is like extremely serious guy. Like, we never had any laughs or jokes. He's a nice guy, but he's just extremely serious, and he's serious about what he does, and he's the leader of that band. And so he came, and I quickly turned around because I'm not gonna play this joke on him, you know.
Right.
And he's like, "What do you have? What do you have?" And I said, "I nothing." And I'm like, keep in mind my back is to him, so my head's turned. I'm talking to him over my shoulder. Nothing. He's like, "Bullshit. Let me see." And so I just gave up, and I just put my hands in the air, and I turn around, and there's my nuts. And he's like, "Oh!" And he's like, and he told me, "I don't think I can ever not see that," like again in my mind. And I'm like, "Sorry, dude, you asked," you know. So,
Right. Right.
yeah. So that's just one of those things. But
Well,
I I've got many more tour stories that can never be told again. But that was a fun one.
well, you know, kind of getting. Thank you so much for being with us. For
Yeah, I'm
taking the
honored. I'm
time.
honored.
What's the future for Night Demon? And what are your future plans for the
Well,
rest of
all
this year?
touring. Yeah, well, the rest of this year we're just in the studio recording and obviously keeping up our weekly podcast. It's hard because with the podcast for us, when we're on the road, there's a lot more substance because we could do many episodes, road episodes. You know, we could film every show, we could talk about it, we could talk to the crew, we could talk to the bands we're on tour with, the promoters, the fans. That's what we're looking forward to. But since we're dormant, we're having to create a lot of very interesting content that's very in depth right now. There's a lot of societal and political issues that we've been a part of, like not trying to be, but like there's a lot. I highly recommend any fan of Night Demon check out the podcast because there's some really, really heavy shit on there that's like you wouldn't think these things happen to a heavy metal band, but like there's some crazy stuff on there that's like wow, like it's pretty impressive to me. So we're going to be doing that, and then next year, basically all of 2020 has been moved to 2021.
Right, right.
So our tours that we had scheduled this year are going to happen next year. So in April, we're doing a tour called the Hell's Decibels Tour, where it's bookended by Hell's Heroes Fest in Houston and the Decibel Metal and Beer Fest in Philadelphia. And that package is Satan, Night Demon, Haunt, and Bewitcher. So we'll be doing a month.
Jesus Christ,
Yeah,
Satan, that's gonna be awesome.
yeah, it's gonna be killer. So like we're doing a month of that in the States, and then we head over to Europe to do the Keep It True Festival, and then we're doing 5 weeks in Europe. Triple headline package tour, three-piece bands. I can't name because it's not announced yet, but this is going to be fucking insane. So we're doing we're doing a world tour with that. So we're going to do all of Europe, and then we're all splitting off to each do festivals during the summer, and then we're going to come back in the fall, do 2 legs in the States, then take it to Mexico, South America, Australia, and Japan. So that's what 2021 looks like. And, we'll have some new music out as well then, and we'll see what happens. But that's what it is for the foreseeable future. And, we're here, we're rolling, we're here for our fans. We've got a lot of really, really cool things going on. And I think that we're grounded. And I think, it's just nice. It's nice to be a young kid with a dream and become a middle-aged man and end up being at least part of the conversation of heavy metal.
Hell yeah, man! You guys are more than in the conversation.
Well, I mean, we just wanted to be in the books. We wanted to put our stamp on whatever we could and just be a part of, when you're standing on the shoulders of giants, it's like, it's unreal sometimes to think about who some of my friends are now. It's just like, it's incredible.
Right.
I'm so grateful. Yeah.
Well, man, I'm so happy for you, and I'm so happy for the success of the band and you having a good year this year. Where can people get in touch with you? Just on Night Demon? You guys
nightdemon.net is the place to go. That's a central hub. It's got links to all the socials, but we also have a subscriber area there for it's kind of a spin-off of the podcast. But basically we don't use Patreon or anything. We have our own system that we've set up. We have our own server, our own platform, so that when these things change or their policies change, it doesn't change anything for us. So we have content on there that we upload every week. That's bonus content from the podcast. And man, it's so great to see this stuff accumulate because this stuff is no longer sitting in my closet. it's out there for the world and for the fans. And like, I mean, we have tons of live show archives, like demos, anything you could think of. It's incredible, like the stuff that we've been able to come up with for that. So yeah, nightdemon.net, that's the central hub for us.
Right on. And then I can't wait to binge the podcast. The podcast is called the Night Demon Podcast.
It's called the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast.
Right. Fucking on.
So
hell yeah.
we're tomorrow is episode 6. So you won't have to dig back too far, which is cool. But I know that you, as a fellow podcaster, you're really going to appreciate this stuff. So it's really deep. It's the ultimate deep dive on the band. It's insane.
Hell
so,
yeah. I cannot wait to dig in.
Yeah, I mean, like we go in depth into the songs too, isolated tracks, everything. So yeah, it's the best gift that we could have ever received. I mean, it's, like I said, it's hosted and curated by a true fan. So it's not, this isn't something you can pay for. You can't go, hey, here's a podcaster guy, we want to hire you to do a podcast about us. It's like, you got to have somebody that has the passion to actually go through with it, and like he wants to know about it. So
right.
So it's awesome. Yeah. And he used to host the Talking Maiden podcast, a podcast all about Iron Maiden that ran for like 150 straight weeks. But when his partner gave up on that, he's like, I want to do now the podcast I always wanted to do, where I actually have access to the band so I can get everything I need and not speculate,
Oh yeah, it's a game changer,
yeah.
Total game changer.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, even if you don't like our band, I highly recommend listening to it. It really is that interesting. It's just, yeah. So,
well, all the listeners need to go out there and put that, on your platform of choice and start listening, man. It sounds,
that's
cool.
What I like about, that's what I like about, I mean, you could go with Spotify, Apple Music, whatever, and like you just subscribe to a podcast, and like every week it just lets you know that it's there, and that's how I get turned on to so many things. And it's just nice to have. I get hooked on them, man. Like certain podcasts, it's like I need to hear it's like my friends. Like I don't even know these people. They're my friends. It's like I need to hear it that week. It gets like my Friday morning going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. I feel the same way. I have some things. It's like your morning coffee or something.
Totally, dude.
But well, man, thanks so much for doing this. And next time you guys put out like a record or something, I hope you'll come back and talk to us again.
Oh, I would love to. My door's always open, man.
Right on, man. Okay,
right,
let me stop and say goodbye properly. But man, thanks so much for doing this. Could you record a quick ID before we get done? Just say this is Jarvis and you're listening to the Ratio Podcast.
This is Jarvis Leatherby from the heavy metal band Night Demon. You're listening to the Ratio Podcast. Keep it heavy.
That is so fucking perfect, man. Well,
I've done it a couple times.
Hell yeah, man. But yeah, thank you so much for doing this. Keep in touch with me, man. Like I'm kind of, I'm keeping this dream alive, and I'll be out to LA more when hopefully the world starts.
Dude, yeah, hit me up, man.
And dude, like I stay usually at the Sunset Marquee, so we can hit the Rainbow or something, man. But
totally,
down at the Marquee, I've like gotten to some insane fucking parties. I'm sure you have too, but
that's fucking killer. Man.
But yeah, man, let's keep in touch. You on Facebook?
Yep.
Yeah, man, I'll hit you up on there. But let's keep in touch, and if you need anything from me, man.
You have my email too. That's usually and my phone number. So text or email is the best way to reach me. Like I get so many Facebook messages. Sometimes I can't even I don't even know.
Oh, me too. I tell people I don't even read them anymore because it's such a fucking mess, man.
But yeah, so text or email.
Yeah, man. Well, if you need anything from me, when this thing starts going around again, we'll have to get you guys to come to town, man. We got this.
Yeah, be sure to email me a link so I can promote it.
Absolutely, and that's the last thing I want to ask you. Can you email me some photos, some high-res photos, you guys?
Do me a favor. email me and ask me for that. And
I will.
I'll get my assistant on it because I'm gonna be wrapped up a bit. But yeah, I'll definitely do that.
Right on, man. We'll probably release Monday or Tuesday, and like I said, I'll email all that over to you when we're done. So
Fantastic.
thanks so much, man, and have a great day.
Thank you too. See you later.
See you, man. Man, I want to thank Jarvis again for sitting down and talking to us. Great chat, great stories, and fucking inspiring. So make sure you go out and support Night Demon. And check out their podcast, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna binge it. But that's about our show. You got any final thoughts for the night, Mr. Slayton?
Yeah, just stay safe out there, people. And these are desperate times and difficult times for everybody. But support the arts and consume them. They're good for the soul, good for the heart, and we'll all come out on the other end of this on top someday. So,
well said, my friend. Yeah, and make sure you follow us on the social medias at the at Ratio Podcast on Instagram, and then we're also on Facebook. But we'll be having a lot more cool episodes coming up for you, and hopefully some way, distract you from the daily grind. So stay switched on, and we'll talk to you soon.